The Chitrik Academy is dedicated in loving memory of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsh Chitrik.
Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to learn from Tashma over here, it's the last two words on the line, until Ta, which is on the second to last line from the bottom. In our previous lessons, we have brought different brises and mishnahs which seem to prove that the halacha zagrava, the yush lemedas, is considered yush. Today, however, we will try to prove from a mishnah that yush lemedas is not considered yush, like the opinion of Abaya. Let us see what our mishnah is going to speak about. Our mishnah is going to start off speaking about two cases. The first case is if a person is walking down the road and he finds figs, cut figs, on the road. So the halacha is the person may keep them. Even if right next to the road there is a field where there are many figs, cut figs being dried, people used to dry the figs, they would cut them and dry them, and he found the figs right next to this field, nevertheless he may keep them. As well as if a person is walking down the road and there's a date tree hanging over the road, and he finds dates underneath the tree, so the halacha is he may keep the dates and the figs that he finds. However, the Mishnah continues, if any of these cases, if it was olives or carobs, then the person may not keep it. Let's see this in the Gemara. The Gemara that we're going to quote, the Mishnah we're going to quote, we're going to start from Tashma, and it's going to go to the word Asr. Let us see. Tashma, come and learn. Ketzios, cut figs, bederech, that were found on the road. Vafilu betzad, stay ketzios, and even if it's beside a field which has many cut figs in it. V'chein, and the halacha will be the same. If te'ena hanayta l'derech, if a date tree is hanging over the road, umatza te'enim tachteha, and the person is walking and the person found underneath this date tree, he found dates, the halacha in both these cases are mutares mishum gezel. It's mutar, and it's not considered stealing. So it's for the law of gezel, of stealing, it's mutar. Upatures min hamaiser, and the person who finds it will be pater from paying maiser, because maiser we only give on produce, on objects that were originally that belonged to people. But because this was hefker, it was at one point ownerless, therefore the person who finds it does not need to give maiser. This is the first part of the Mishnah. We'll call it, the Gemara calls it the Reisha, the head of the Mishnah, the beginning of that Mishnah. So let's make a little Reish over here. This is the Reisha of the Mishnah. Reish. And here is the Seifa, the end of the Mishnah. Let's make a little Samach. The Mishnah concludes, Bezeisim. If, however, the cases that we just mentioned were with olives, uvecharuvim, or with carobs, then if the person finds it near a field where there are other carobs or olives, or if he finds it underneath the tree, either an olive tree or a carob tree, then also the person who finds it is not permitted to keep them. Let's see this on our board. So the first part of the Mishnah mentions that if it was figs that a person found, or dates, either beside a field or underneath a tree, we have a check here that the person who finds it may keep it. And then the Mishnah concludes, the Seifa, that if in any of these cases it was with olives or carobs, then the finder may not keep it. So now let us see what the Gemara is going to try to prove from this. Now the Gemara is going to try to prove its opinion. So let's make maybe a P over here to try to prove what its question is. Bishlema reisha l'abaya loikasha. Seemingly, if we look at the Brisa, it seems like there's a question on Abaya and Rava. Because Abaya holds that Yush Lemedas is not Yush. Meaning that if a person finds something, because the owner does not know about it, he is not allowed to keep it. So therefore, the Seifa makes sense. if a person finds olives or carobs on the floor, underneath a tree or beside a field, probably the owner is unaware that they fell off the tree, and therefore he's not allowed to keep it. However, why in these cases, in the Reisha, do we say that a person is allowed to keep it? This seems like a question on Abaya. So Gemara is going to tell us that this is not a question on Abaya. Why not? Let's see. Bishlema Reisha Labaya Lekasha. We could for sure say that the Reisha is Abaya. For Abaya is not a question. Why? Why in the Reisha do we say that dates and figs a person may keep? Agav dechshivi, because the figs are chashuv, they're important, they're valuable. Memashmish behu, the person, the owner constantly checks up on them. And therefore, as soon as the figs fall off the tree, the owner is aware of it right away because he goes and checks on it. And therefore, when he saw that it fell on the floor, and he gave up on them. And therefore, it's not Yishloi Medas because the owner has already given up on them, made them hefker. So that's why the case of figs is not a question on Abaya. Te'ena Nami. And the case of dates that a person is allowed to keep is also not a question on Abaya. Because Meida Yad Yad the Nasra, because a person knows that dates constantly fall off the tree. And therefore, these cases are not a question on Abaya. Because as soon as they fell off, the owner made them hefker and was miyayish and gave up on finding them. Figs, because he obviously checked right away and saw they fell on the floor. So the time the finder came around, it was already miyayish, it was already hefker. And dates, a person originally knows that as soon as the date falls on the floor, he's going to give up on them. Because he knows that they fall down all the time. Therefore, he doesn't want them. So that's the reason why in these cases, even Abaya will hold that the finder may keep it. So it's not a question on Abaya. Because these cases are exceptions. Okay, so we see that this Mishnah can work out according to Abaya, and it seems like a proof, according to Abaya's view, that Yishloi Medas is not considered Yish, and that's why in the case of the olive and carobs, a person may not keep it. Ela Seifa l'Rava Kasha, but the Seifa seems like for Rava seems like a question. Why? Because it says Diktani, because it says Bezeisim v'charuv mas asur. By olives and carobs, a person who finds it is not allowed to keep it. So Rava says Yishloi Medas havi yush, and therefore it makes sense why in the case of figs and dates, the person who finds it may keep it, because even though the owner does not know about it, because the owner makes it hefker later on, he is allowed to keep it. So if so, why later in the Mishnah, in the Seifa, are olives and carobs not permissible to be kept? Why does the finder have to give it back? Why is he not allowed to keep it? So it seems like a question on Rava. So this is a proof from this Mishnah that the halacha is like Abaya. So this is where it ends, the dot over here, ends the proof that the halacha is like Abaya. Now the Gemara is going to reject this proof. Gemara says, really the halacha could be, even according to Rava, the Yishloi Medas havi yush. So why olives and carobs, the finder may not keep them? Amar Rabbi Avahu says, Shani Zayis, olives are different. Hoyo v'chazusoi mechiach alav, because a person sees that you could tell from the olive where it came from. Va'afa gav de nesarin zeisei meidei yadei. Even though afa gav de nesarim zeisei, the olives fell off, meidei yada, a person knows that duchta de inishu, the place of a person is him. What does this mean? This means as follows. In the case where, for example, if the olives were right near the field, a person walking by knows where the olives came from. And the dates as well, person walking by, the person who finds them knows where the dates came from. And therefore, the owner does not give up on finding them, because he knows that everyone will return it to him because they know exactly where the olives came from. And therefore, in the case of olives and carobs, we say that the finder may not keep it because the owner has never given up on finding them. Now the Gemara is going to ask a simple question. Why is this specifically by olives and carobs, seemingly by figs and dates, should be the same halacha? Let's see this in the Gemara. So the Gemara rejected, or Bavo rejected the proof according to Abaye, and that goes all the way until here. The rejection is that according to Abaye says olives and carobs are exceptions because people know who belongs to them, therefore the owner never actually gave up on having his olives and carobs returned. Now the Gemara is going to ask a question. Let's put a question mark. If so, afilu reisha nami, even the case of figs and dates should be the same halacha. Everyone could see who owns the figs and the dates, because it's right under the tree or it's right near the field. Everyone knows who is the owner of these fruits. Therefore, even such cases, the case of figs and dates, Abaye should say that a person who finds it is not allowed to keep it. Why specifically by olives and carobs do we say the person cannot keep it? So Gemara answers, let's make Let's make the A on this also over here. We'll show that they're on the same line, the question and the answer. Amar Rav Papa says, Te'ena im nifilasa nim eses. Dates, and the same thing will be by figs, when they fall down, nim eses, they become ruined, they become disgusting. And therefore, the owner, he knows that they're going to fall down, and as soon as they fall down, he gives up on it right away. He doesn't want to keep it. Olives and carobs, when they fall down from the tree, or it fell out of his field, the owner is waiting for it to be returned because he knows that people return to him because they know who it belongs to. Therefore, the finder may not keep it. However, figs and dates, the owner says, he thinks to himself, if they fall off, when they fall off, I do not want it back, because as soon as they fall down, they become disgusting. And therefore, by figs and dates, the finder may keep it, because the owner does not want to keep them, does not want it returned. However, by olives and carobs, the owner does want it returned, and that is the difference between these two halachas. So therefore, from this Mishnah, there's no proof according to Abaye or according to Rava. According to both of them, the Mishnah works out well, where they say Yish Medas is not Yish like Abaye, or like Rava, the Yish Medas is Yish. And this is the end of this lesson.